Around. This is not one of those systems that's clearing out really quickly. We've got that risk for severe storms for your Saturday as well. So if you're or your Friday into your Saturday. So if you're trying to plan out your weekend, just keep an eye on that forecast. It's not going to be raining constantly, as Steph just showed you, but you're definitely going to have to plan around this. So we've got that risk for damaging winds tomorrow. You know what? I just realized today's Friday. I was thinking tomorrow was not Saturday. I was like, oh, wait, no, yeah. So tomorrow is Saturday. I am talking about Saturday, in fact. We've got that risk for severe storms from Wilmington down through Charleston, and that risk for flash flooding continuing. Guys, this is the third time I've clicked through these graphics, and this is the first time I've realized it's Friday. So if you're on that same kind of train, we're talking about Saturday, that risk for flash flooding along the Gulf Coast, stretching over into the Panhandle, all the way up into places like Roanoke and Raleigh, because it's just been so wet. We're going to add more onto that, and we're going to have a couple different rounds of rain. Steph just showed you that for today. Watch what happens for our Saturday morning. Again, I know we kind of hate to see this, right, for places like Tallahassee, a little bit reminiscent when we had those storms blasting through the other morning that were very feisty, kind of looking a little similar as well. We're going to watch that risk for severe storms. We're going to watch that risk for the very heavy rain. But watch what happens for cities like Atlanta. You get kind of a second round as well heading through the afternoon with that risk for some stronger storms. So your Saturday is going to be cut up in pieces in terms of when you can be outside, when you're going to be able to have a break in that rain. In terms of the rainfall, coming a bullseye right now for this broad brush forecast across southern portions of Alabama. You can see there south of Montgomery. Of course, we've seen so much active weather recently. The ground is so wet. So concern, Jim, for these areas as well is that possibility for the trees coming down with any of those gusty winds, with the ground just being so very saturated.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing.
That active weather across the south. If you're headed out the door this morning, you're going to want to Friday, so maybe you are traveling this morning or headed somewhere a little later in the day. If you are, you're going to be dealing with that possibility for storms across much of the country, so you could see some delays here. We've got some severe thunderstorm warnings already popping up there around Apalachicola, but you can see it's very active through the Mississippi River Valley into the southeast. Today, we've got that risk for severe storms, a couple different rounds. So it's not like we're going to have this morning round and then we're going to be done with it. We've got more possible this afternoon, damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornado possible. And then, of course, with this heavy rain that we're seeing on these already saturated grounds, that I-20 corridor included in that, you could see some flooding along with that, at least ponding on the roadways. Let's take a look at Jackson, because you're starting out with some rain there in Jackson, Mississippi this morning, some storms around as well. These storms will begin to kind of clear by lunch hour from the northwest to the southeast. So McComb, you've still got some storms around for lunch, Hattiesburg as well. So maybe this is the day that you take your lunch with you. You don't plan on running out and getting it. And then you'll notice we start to see that kind of peeling away. McComb, you're looking better by the afternoon rush. Currently not seeing any major delays. That's great news, but that's not going to be expected as we head through the day. Couple reports of turbulence around here. Turbulation, right? It's turbulating out there. So it could be a little bumpy for some of your flights. I'll be awake by the next hour, Jim. I promise.
Yeah, this is early for you, Ms. Combs. Straight line winds 70 to 90 miles an hour right through Tallahassee and Leon County.
Yeah, you know, when you said, what day was it? Was it last week? Was it earlier this week?
I can't even, it's been every day.
It's all starting to run together because it's a lot of the same areas. It's kind of the same story over and over again, so you hate to see it. But
relentless.
I mean, the least we can do is tell you that this is what we're expecting and hope you can prepare. But it's at some point, I think everyone's probably getting a little bit of storm, flood, severe fatigue at this point. We've got that risk for flash flooding today. You can see that area marked in yellow as likely, but even in our green areas, I'd keep an eye out for some flash flooding here or there. Hattiesburg up through Montgomery is where we have the highest likelihood for some of that flash flooding today. Jim just showed you we've got the rain coming down. It's already been so wet across the Gulf Coast states. We're going to add in that risk for severe thunderstorms as well throughout this morning, and then another round this afternoon. We've got that risk for damaging winds, for the large hail, for an isolated tornado. And you know, with these storms that we've been seeing recently, I would even pay very close attention to your severe thunderstorm warnings. I know we all really closely pay attention to our tornado warnings, as you should. You can see we've got torcons of 2 to 3. But when you're talking about some of the wind damage that we've seen from severe thunderstorms recently, you really want to take those seriously as well. Here's our setup. Here's that front that we were talking about. It lifts north as a warm front, so we just really have this muggy warmth associated with this low pressure system. The atmosphere is feeding off of this and that daytime energy as well. well. That is going to help to fuel those storms. But then you go up in the atmosphere a bit, and we've also got a bit of turn with the winds. So we've got all of these severe elements possible with the wind, with the hail, with the isolated tornadoes. Here's a look at the current radar. That rain is coming down, and it's going to continue, guys. Watch what happens. This fills in a little bit more across Mississippi, Alabama as we head through the later morning hours. And then watch what happens. These storms kind of start to take more of a shape, and as they plunge southward into places like Albany for your drive home, maybe as well. Keep an eye on this. We're going to have much more on all of this coming up after the break.
Positive, Felicia.
You got to find the silver lining, guys. Let's talk about what you can expect if you are out, thanks to our safe driving partner here. We've got that possibility for more rain, more storms today from Texas, really all along the Gulf Coast. That I-10 corridor is going to be messy in some places at some times today, with different rounds of rain and storms continuing. So we've got that we can expect. Now, what we're going to watch as we head throughout the day is that possibility for the severe storms for areas that have already had bad weather, like Houston. You've got some of those issues that you're going to be having, maybe with some of the cleanup. You know, we've got a lot of power outages. Remember that if you encounter a stoplight that is out, you have to treat that as a four-way stop. Places like New Orleans, you've got those rounds of rain, and we know that you've been dealing with some of that as well. That I-10 corridor is going to be wet, stretching up through cities like Montgomery and Atlanta. We're continuing with that chance for rain and storms. You know, you got to slow down. That's the main thing. Slow down, drive more carefully. Cincinnati, Louisville, you're also stuck in that. Jim, you know, it's kind of the same story that we've been talking about for a while, over and over and over again.
It really is. Yeah. We just need kind of a break.
That is a wall of rain that you're dealing with, especially when you're talking about the winds blowing as well. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're also watching. You can see we've got kind of our influx of moisture swinging across the Midwest. We're going to watch this filling in to the Northeast eventually. So that is what we're going to be watching. My clicker has not worked, so shout out to our weather producer Jillian for clicking for me. You can see the rain and storms that we've got ongoing here in the warm sector of this low pressure system. All of that moisture just feeding in through here. Cities like Cape Girardeau, Paducah in this, but we've got a flash flood warning for Dexter, Duck Creek, and Pike right now. That's until 6 a.m. local time there in Missouri. We've already seen quite a bit of rain, 2 to 3 inches. Radar estimated a little bit farther south of that, up to maybe 3 to 5 inches. So the ground is pretty wet, and we're adding more to it. If you're getting ready to head out the door this morning, give yourself a little bit of extra time. As we know, the rain can slow down traffic a little bit. Watch how this fills in across the Ohio Valley, pushes northeast throughout our day-to-day. Columbus, you're getting some rain. Louisville, Bowling Green, it's going to be a bit of a wet late morning into your early afternoon. And then as we're heading into your rush hour, you'll notice we've got pockets of heavy rain around here. Some storms certainly possible. That's filling in for your Saturday morning too. So we're watching as all this moisture, all of this storminess kind of fills in eastward, heading through today, tonight, and then into Saturday. That risk for flash flooding for cities like Paducah, Bowling Green, down into Nashville. So we've already started to see some of that just a little bit farther west across Missouri. This is what we're also going to be watching heading into the overnight hours. Portions of West Virginia and Virginia getting in on that flash flooding possibility. The good news is, watch what happens. Here's our Saturday. That rain fills in across Saturday. And then by Sunday, a lot of us that are dealing with the rain and storms today are going to be looking a lot better. So it's going to be a bit of a split weekend, so you can stay inside one day, go out the next. Deadly and destructive storms rip through the southern plains, blowing out windows, scattering glass and debris in Houston. Now, we saw wind reports near 80 miles per hour, hail near 3 inches in diameter, and more than 30 flash flood warnings. This morning, schools in the Houston area closed. And Mother Nature still firing off storms. Today, our threats shift east. Flash flooding is likely once again across the drenched south, and damaging winds, chance for hail, all there. You see it here, many of the same areas that have been hit over and over again. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs, alongside meteorologists Stephanie Abrams and Jim Cantori. Jim, just seeing some of these videos coming out of Houston, it's like, it's almost shocking when you know it's not going to stop there. But as Steph has mentioned, for a lot of us, Sunday will look a lot better. So we'll just get through our storms today and tomorrow, and then look forward to Sunday. Take a look at our risk area tomorrow. We've got that risk for the damaging winds, the hail, isolated tornado. This is stretching from the coastal Carolinas down through the Florida Panhandle. So that's what we'll be dealing with for our Saturday, on and off. We're going to have that possibility for some of those storms. It seems as though maybe I am once again having clicker issues. Jilly, you might have to click for me through this. Our weather producer Jillian saving the day here. We've got that risk for flash flooding as well. You can see that is for our Saturday. A bullseye along the Gulf Coast where we're getting lots of rain today. We've had lots of rain recently, and that flash flooding possibility continues for cities like Mobile. Now, timing it out for you, taking a look at your Saturday, we're going to have a couple different rounds of storminess. So you see this here first. I know as you're watching that probably in Tallahassee, you're like, oh, this is not what I want to see. Watching those storms kind of glide down along that I-10 corridor. Some of those could be packing a bit of a punch as you're waking up for your Saturday morning. But then watch what happens. So this kind of continues to fill in eastward, and then we'll watch these storms developing here kind of between Macon and Atlanta, lifting north for our Saturday afternoon. So places like Montgomery and Atlanta, you're going to have to watch kind of a two-tier area of storminess heading through the afternoon. If you're planning out your Saturday, going to have to plan around these storms, that's for sure. Some of those are going to continue to pack a punch into the overnight hours as well, and then we begin to see things getting better by Sunday. I think my clicker's working now, Jillian. Yay, finally. We've got that possibility for more rain, maybe up to 5 to 8 inches where you're seeing some of that orange south of Montgomery. Broad brush forecast here, certainly locally higher amounts are possible. So I definitely think that the possibility for some flash flooding for our Saturday is going to become to fruition, especially from what we've seen. Actually, that was a false alarm. I think I just hit my button at the exact same time Jillian clicked. So, Jim, you can't win them all.
You know what? Especially on a Friday.
On a Friday. Planning some travel for this weekend. Maybe you're already heading out to get on the road. If you are, keep an eye on the weather, especially if you're taking, say, that I-20, I-10 corridor, I-40 corridor. I mean, a lot of the roads actually are going to be rain-soaked this morning as you're heading out. Give yourself some extra time. Watching this complex of storms that's been blasting there through the Gulf Coast with some just crazy winds with it. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning ongoing right now for the cities of Citronelle, Mount Vernon included in that until 7 a.m. Could have some hail, some gusty winds with that. So do keep that in mind. You can see we're going from Mississippi over into Alabama with that severe thunderstorm warning, expecting more severe thunderstorm warnings as we continue. Look at this complex of thunderstorms. It's moving its way across the Gulf, going to eventually move into the Big Bend area of Florida, maybe down towards Spring Hill as well. Tons of lightning. If you are in Cedar Key right now looking west, you just see a wall of lightning, basically. Look at some of these reports that we saw as this system moved through, or as this area of storminess moved through. Apalachicola Airport, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. St. Joseph's stat there, 74 miles per hour. Indian Pass, 62. So already seeing some very gusty winds within this complex. Guys, it's going to stay stormy throughout our Friday. You're just going to have to plan accordingly. Certainly hope no one is in the water being impacted by that right now. That is not what you want to deal with. Well, let's go back to that timing on that. Horseshoe Beach around 8 a.m. to Cedar Key around 8:16. So if you are trying to get somewhere, maybe you want to be there before 8:16 in Cedar Key. You want to get in before this gets to you because, Steph, as we've seen, you don't want to be dealing with these storms with these winds and this rain like this.
Because they have been deadly and
And as you saw from those twisted power lines, I mean, it's going to take a while for Houston.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned that earlier. We're talking days, not hours.
That's right.
And then with the temperatures going up, it's going to be not a fun time there in Houston. Hate to see that for them. Of course, it's been so busy recently for the Gulf Coast states with that risk for severe weather, and we're going to continue that today and into tomorrow. We've got that risk for flash flooding. You can see the highlighted region here from portions of Louisiana up through around Montgomery as well. The green, I'd pay attention to it too. Birmingham, Mobile, that possibility for flash flooding is we're going to have rounds of rain today. Some of that is going to end up training or kind of lining up one after another, and that could lead to some localized flash flooding. Severe storms with that risk for damaging winds, some hail as well, and then an isolated tornado threat today. We're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to have a couple different rounds that we have to watch across the southeast region for storms. Torcons of 2 to 3, so an isolated tornado risk. If you find yourself, of course, in the tornado warning, you want to get to the lowest level away from the doors and windows. But these severe thunderstorm warnings have been packing quite a punch as well, so I'd really pay attention to those. We're going to watch as this warm front lifts north. We just have abundant warmth, moisture, energy building in the atmosphere as we head throughout the day today with this system. Heading up aloft into higher in the atmosphere, that those winds begin to turn a bit. They turn southwesterly, and all of that comes together to bring us the risk for all modes of severe weather, damaging winds, hail, the isolated tornado. We've already got some flash flooding popping up, some severe thunderstorms as well. Going to continue watching this with that flood threat, with that severe thunderstorm warning, and you'll watch as these fill in across the southeast heading into the later hours today as well. Friday is going to be a bit of a mess for our rush hour for some of us. localized forecast for that flash flooding is going to come into play before all is said and done. Of course, a lot of focus across the south with the storms that we have ongoing there, but we also have rain and storms ongoing through the north. We're watching this feed of moisture on our water vapor imagery coming up through here and taking a look at the radar truth of that. A lot of rain from Tennessee up through Kentucky. You're getting in on this southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Ohio as well. We've had some heavy rain at times, but this is a lot of light rain as well. This is going to be the type of rain that makes the roads wet. It's going to slow things down just a little bit. Maybe take the umbrella along with you. As you can see, it's going to be filling in heading throughout the rest of our morning as well. Now, I will say, if you're heading out right now, probably take the umbrella, maybe wear the boots, but watch what happens. We're staying in this for a while, so you might not just need it for this morning. Make sure you go ahead and take it in with you when you go into work, because that's the worst, right? You use it to get to your car, you're going to work in the morning, and then you're getting out of work and you left it in your car, speaking from personal experience. Some storms certainly possible, bubbling up through the afternoon, and then it's going to be a rainy time for Virginia, up into Maryland, parts of Pennsylvania as we're starting out for your Saturday morning. That risk of flash flooding through tomorrow morning, so throughout the day today, Paducah, Bowling Green down into Nashville, you've got that risk for some flash flooding. That is also going to be for portions of West Virginia, Virginia. Saturday, we've got that rain continuing early into the afternoon. It starts to clear out, and then by Sunday, it's looking better, Steph, for most of us.
That it is. Let's get you.
Sure. Thanks, Steph. Well, let's get you out the door in the Northeast. Now, some of us are going to need our deadly and destructive storms rip through the southern plains, blowing out windows, shattering glass, debris everywhere in Houston. We saw wind reports near 80 miles per hour. Now, hail near 3 inches in diameter and more than 30 flash flood warnings. Just a mess. This morning, schools in the Houston area closed. And Mother Nature still firing off storms. Today, our threat shifts east. Flash flooding is likely once again across the drenched south. Just look at this. We've got the flash flooding possible and, of course, that risk for damaging winds and some hail all outlined. It's like the Gulf Coast states can't catch a break. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs alongside meteorologist Stephanie Abrams and Jim Cantori. Jim, I feel like we keep seeing more video coming out of Houston, and each one and heading into the nighttime hours, that available energy for those storms to work with is still there. We're going to continue our risk on Saturday. This is the highlighted region from Panhandle of Florida all the way up through coastal Carolinas. Places like Savannah, Albany, keep an eye out for some of those feisty storms tomorrow. We've got the damaging wind. We've got the hail, and then some flash flooding certainly possible. Wider area highlighted for that risk of flash flooding. It's been very wet, but you'll notice kind of the peak of the risk of flash flooding here along the Gulf Coast, the I-10 corridor, Mobile over to Tallahassee. We're going to watch rounds of rain starting out your Saturday morning. You see it here. Just look at this kind of line of storms that's lining up over the Gulf of Mexico. That's how you're kicking off your morning. You're going to have some strong storms once again starting your Saturday, blasting through Tallahassee, southern Georgia, southern Mississippi and Alabama starting that off, and then the Panhandle of Florida dealing with some of those storms rolling through. Here's our Saturday afternoon. Places like Atlanta down through Montgomery, Birmingham, those scattered storms around, that daytime heating, destabilizing the atmosphere. We're going to have the heavy rain, the gusty wind, all of that coming along with this. So we're watching kind of two different areas of storminess throughout the day on Saturday. So for a lot of us, it won't be storming the whole day, but there will be at least a part of the day that you have to keep an eye on those storms. That risk for some flash flooding, you can see the highlighted area here south of Montgomery, Alabama, 3 to 5 inches, maybe higher. But this is a broad brush forecast, guys. Locally higher amounts certainly possible, which could lead to some of that flash flooding. Also concerned with the risk for power outages. When you've had this much rain, it kind of loosens up that topsoil. As we know, water is a solvent, so it kind of makes everything a little bit looser there when you're talking about the trees, the leaves, the fruit, whatever makes those trees top heavy. And so when you get those gusty winds, when it's been so rainy, those trees can come down a bit more easier. So several rivers in flood stage right now. The purple triangles here across eastern Texas in major flood stage, but we're expecting to see few more of those purple triangles popping up before all is said and done, Jim. We just, it's like one right after another. There has not been time for anything to dry out yet.
So, Felicia,
keep an eye on it, but not getting crazy, hopefully. Well, active across the south this morning as we get you out the door. It's Friday, and storms might be impacting some of your travel today and into the weekend. Sounds kind of familiar, right? We've been on this same trend for a couple weeks now. We're watching some severe storms bubbling up, whether it's a severe thunderstorm or that flash flood warning that we're watching. Weather could certainly be impacting your travel this morning. This severe thunderstorm warning, including the cities of Chiefland, Williston, until 9:15. We've got that threat considerable tag on that because the wind gusts could get up to 70 miles per hour. And we've already seen that come to fruition as that area of storminess moved through the panhandle a bit earlier this morning. So take that one seriously. You'll notice we've got kind of messy weather across much of the eastern portion of the country. Tennessee, it's a wet start for you, but we've also got a very wet start south of Jackson, Mississippi. Very heavy rain has been falling for quite some time. So we've got this flash flood warning until 10:45 local time there. Crystal Springs, Natchez, you're all included in that, and you'll notice that this is not slowing down at all. I actually would not be surprised if we see this flash flood warning kind of extending a little bit farther eastward up toward that I-20 corridor because it's been raining there for quite some time. That ground is wet. Severe thunderstorm warning bubbling up for portions of Texas. This is near Beeville, Blueberry Hill, Skidmore, all included in that until 7:30 local time. Probably some large hail within there. That's what I'm guessing on that one. Maybe some damaging wind gusts. So keep an eye on that storm moving over that 37 corridor. So already seeing the severe thunderstorms bubbling up. That's going to continue into this afternoon. We've got morning and afternoon storms. All hazards possible. An isolated tornado can't be ruled out for this area either, Jim. So we're continuing on that severe weather train today.
Yeah, and flooding is going to.
I expected that. I'm surprised they didn't extend it farther east.
I am too.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, you know what though? What's interesting is somewhere in there. No, that wouldn't be because Jackson has that off. That's
fall rates like that up over 2.5 inches an hour. That's coming down. That's a wall of rain. That's going to slow you down for sure. Give yourself some extra time. I know it's Friday. You want to get out. You want to get to work fast and then get home from work fast. But maybe leave a little early. Give yourself some extra time today, especially when we're dealing with that possibility for flash flooding. You see that highlighted here. That's going to mean flooding on the roadways. That's going to mean ponding on the roadways. Low water crossings where that typically flood with lots of rain. That could be what you're seeing today in some of these areas. So just keep that in mind as you go about your Friday, trying to get to your weekend. We've got that risk for severe storms for cities like Mobile up through Montgomery, Baton Rouge. A couple different rounds of severe storms today. Now, damaging winds, hail, that is all a possibility. We've already seen that along with the flash flooding. But an isolated tornado can't be ruled out either. You can see our torcons of 2, 2, 3. And as we saw in Houston, all it takes is one really strong severe thunderstorm, maybe one tornado, and it can completely ruin your day and cause a lot of damage. We're going to continue watching this. This is going to continue into our evening as well. A couple different rounds of these storms. Some of us having that impact our rush hour for more flash flood warnings popping up, I think, before all is said and done between today and tomorrow. Now, we're watching not only, of course, the Gulf Coast, but the possibility for storms filling in across the north and the northeast. Just look at this kind of plume of moisture that we have funneling up through the Great Lakes region, watching that next system that's going to make its way in and then bring that rain widespread all the way to the east coast. So here's our low pressure system. We've got plenty of rain, some pockets of heavier rain there in the warm sector where you're seeing that yellow, that rain is coming down at a pretty good clip. Windshield wipers are working overtime. This is the area, Louisville down through maybe Nashville up until Cincinnati. Give yourself a little bit of extra time as you're heading out the door this morning. Better to not be rushing, have a little bit of extra time than to ruin your Friday morning by trying to rush on these wet roads. Watch how this fills in eastward as we head into your lunch hour. Pittsburgh, this is the day you want to take your lunch with you. You don't want to have to run out and get it because it's going to be raining. Spotty storms are still going to continue for our rush hour across this region. And then you'll notice this filling in. D.C., you're getting in on that as we're kicking off your Saturday morning. Could be quite rainy at times. Flash flooding is going to be a concern just because we've had rain hanging around for a couple hours now. We're going to keep adding to that for cities like Bowling Green down through Nashville. And then you'll notice that stretches over into West Virginia and Virginia. Steph, eventually it does clear out, though.
It does.